Now this tank has been in the works for a very long time, with so much going on and more extremes and change on this planet. It's time for the weather environment tag from CR.
Meow! Poople's cat, live from near Toronto. Toronto's in Canada, eh? I'm responding to the tag. Creative Redundancy from the westy part of Canada asked a bunch of us from around the world to talk about our local climate and weather. So stay tuned.
Morning, it's another pure grey morning. Don't know what the day is holding, and I get up right home and I walk right into the path of a lightning bolt.
Slides for Steve Foco because I really like graphs. It's a little out of date now, but you can see what's going on here. You can look at various parts of what's going on, and you can see why Toronto has nice summers but pretty bad winters. Get into answering the tag. Just another mention of the fact that human-caused climate change is extremely real, nothing to do with natural cycles, and is ongoing. As you can see from actual temperature data from Toronto, it's getting warmer and warmer. So without humidex and windchill, which you have to use actually in Toronto, a low temperature is generally about -3 to -4 in January, with a high of about +21 centigrade in July and August. So Creative Redundancy asked if you've, ever personally had heat stroke or suffered from frostbite, and the answer is yes, I have. Running, that I used to do about 80 kilometers a week for about 17 years, that happened quite a bit to me, and it's not fun. Of the two, the one that makes you feel worse is definitely heat stroke, but the one that hurts the longest has got to be frostbite. I have had minor frostbite on my penis. It was the first and only time I ever had that running, and after that I always triple layered my unmentionables. It wasn't that much fun. Luckily no permanent damage was done. So we asked how many seasons we get. We get 4 seasons here. We get spring, summer, autumn, otherwise known as fall, and winter. And people will make jokes and say, "Oh, you get 4 seasons in one day" and stuff like that. We really don't. The weather's pretty dependable depending on the time of the year. And I really like 2 to 3 months of solid winter and a couple of solid months of spring and fall, and about 5 to 6 months of really hot summer weather. I love it. For those people out there that don't know, Toronto, Canada is actually on the same longitude as Mallorca in the Mediterranean. If we were in the middle of a continent, we would have very mild weather in the winter, but we don't, so it's really cold. I forgot to mention where Toronto, Canada is. Toronto, Canada is just above the United States of America and just below Denmark and the Soviet Union, if you look at it in a certain way. Pretty cool, eh? See, I wanted to know how windy it gets. It kind of varies. Basically about 8 to 14 kilometers is the average wind speed throughout the year here. Just for comparison, Canada's got 3 major cities: Montreal, Toronto and Vancouver. Montreal and Toronto are actually reasonably close together. Vancouver's a long way off. So there you can see what the 4 seasonal temperature would be in Fahrenheit for those people who are metrically challenged, which would not include any Canadians, British, French, Chinese, Russians, Indians, anybody other than the United States of America, and I think 1 small Pacific island. Go metric! I also want to know what kind of precipitation we get. That means water falling from the sky. We get basically 3 types here. We get wet snow, which you guys call rain. We get hard snow, which you guys would call ice. And we get fluffy, fun snow, otherwise known as a total blizzard and a collapse of the economy south of the border. So we asked what types of storms we get, and I think that's kind of a great question, because you need to know what's going on in your local area, what's historically gone on, what's likely to go on in the future, to actually prepare for natural disasters in a reasonable way. And there's some blank spots up here, which I'll get into. So not surprisingly, we get ice storms quite a bit. But it seems on average we get a major ice storm about once every 2 or 3 years now. That's frequency's increased. By major I mean major enough to shut down the roads and bring down power lines. And we've had 5, 6, 7 days of power outages in various parts of the actual city due to this. But as you can see, it's beautiful. It's great to go ice skating on the Lake Ontario, which is not that common. It has to be prolonged cold for a long period of time for that. But pretty much all the other small lakes around, ice skating, snowshoeing, ice fishing, it's wonderful. Best time of year to get out and about because there's no bugs. Now we do get some pretty amazing storms coming up, mostly in the July-August when it's been prolonged hot. We get major storms developing over the city and it pours down with water. And we do even in fact get the odd typhoon. And they seem to be getting more and more regular. And of course I say typhoon and I mean tornado, but I have to make things wrong so you guys can criticise me because I know that's part of the fun of these types of tags. Yeah, so over the last few years we've had quite a few major flood events. Now there are parts of Toronto that are very close to the lake, so you kind of expect them to flood. But it seems to be spreading in area and causing more and more issues. Anyway, these are some fun pictures from that. As you can see that one of our GO trains was famously stuck there in the water, and during this an actual water snake actually came onto the train and amused the passengers. And I think it's kind of a funny headline, this one. 4 hours stuck on a commuter train, eh? Anyway, they did have to use life rafts and all that to get them out, but to be honest with you, I think it was the greatest story and thing that ever happened to those commuters because it was all over the Twitterverse. We have had snowstorms so bad we've had to call the army in. The mayor at the time, Mad Mel Lastman, he actually got a lot of stick for it. But me and Kitty were driving home, and as we were driving home, it started to snow. It had been snowing all night. We actually lived downtown at that point, near a big park called High Park. We abandoned our vehicle with about a mile to go to where we were trying to go home, and we put it in the Loblaws grocery store's car park, and Kitty was worried she'd get towed, and I just said no, we stopped now and we're going to walk the rest of the way. It was that bad. Anyway, the car was there for about 5 days. It didn't get towed because nobody could tow anything, and the army came in, and the army did a great service actually ferrying people to and from hospitals on roads that were fairly impassable. Like I say, the poor Mad Mel got a lot of stick for that. It's not really fair. It actually was reasonable to do it. There was large parts of the city that were actually impassable for multiple days. This is just a nice picture of an ice storm. This is obviously down by the lake, and if you park down by the lake in the winter and it's windy off the lake, guess what will happen to your car? Anyway, we do have some pretty impressive ice storms, as you can see from this one. It can be very dangerous underfoot. Not every year, but some years we get this. Hey, so I'm going to kind of handle question 7 and 8 together. Question 7 is, does it flood, drought, landslides, mudslides, avalanches, pyroclastic flow, which for those people out there who are scientifically challenged is actually lava flowing from a volcano? No, we do not have any active volcanoes. And do you experience, or is it known for your area to have natural disasters? Yeah, it is. It's really well known for our area to have natural disasters. We don't really have massively disastrous ones, but I would say most people have had a blackout due to a natural disaster for quite a period of time. We have had people homeless because of the cold when it happens in the winter, and we do regularly think about what would happen in the city if there was a major natural disaster. But I think overall the city's pretty lousy in terms of being prepared for this. Toronto's certainly not prepared for Uncle Al's tidal wave. There's a picture of it here, the last tidal wave. But this is actually a thing. We live on a massive lake called Lake Ontario, and it could actually subside enough to cause a significant tidal wave that would hit Toronto. It wouldn't be that high. But we could have a 50-foot tidal wave. It has happened in the geological past, and it could also happen again. So the major natural disaster that Toronto experienced was called Hurricane Hazel in the 1950s. As you can see from this picture, it killed a lot of people. Killed over 100 in the Ontario area, but this was kind of local to the GTA. At the time they were building new state homes in the 50s down in the ravines, and this is the Humber Ravine, and it shows where most of the dead occurred, including a bunch of firemen who bravely tried to save them, where the houses were. And it wasn't just the Humber ravine that was took out, it was quite a few. And because of that, and the massive damage that happened because of this, one of the great things is that Toronto now has a ravine system with no buildings in it. All the buildings were removed at that time for obvious reasons, because Hurricane Hazel could happen again. So although it was horrible for the people who died, the legacy of that natural disaster, Toronto turned into one of its major unique features. A lot of people when they visit Toronto are walking along flat and don't appreciate Toronto is actually a series of three massive ravines. And the actual city is built up on top of the ravines. And there's a lot of bridging and construction in between, but no building in the ravines. So we have great park systems that you can run through for tens of miles, and we get deer, and we get coyotes, and foxes, and all that stuff. No bears for a long time. The bears occasionally will come to where I am, which is about 45 kilometers outside of Toronto, but it's been a few years since bears have been in Toronto. Maybe they'll go back in the future if people die off. Now he points out that lightning is rare, and lightning is very rare, but I would also point out that lightning is rare, but it easily can hit in Ontario, especially in the summer. Very few fatalities. Most of the fatalities are male and young doing outdoor sports. It is something I take seriously, and I have abandoned trail walks in the summer. They can come on in half an hour to an hour, the thunderstorms, and we do have significant ones here, and it's something you have to be aware of. And my hospital was hit this week by 3 bolts of lightning, like bang, bang, bang. My office shook and all the power went out, except for my computer because I have the battery reserve because I'm risk. And we actually lost a little bit of technical ability to operate the hospital for a while, for about 4 or 5 hours because of that. And the hospital, yes, it is proof against lightning. It was triple bolt, bang, 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 and extremely powerful. So no, I don't know anybody that's personally been hit by lightning. I have nursed people that have been hit by lightning, but I haven't actually, no friends, families or neighbours. It is pretty unlikely. It's just very dramatic and gets all over the news. These days if like 3 or 4 kids get killed or whatever, it's massive news. Massive, massive news, right? Meanwhile, in other countries and parts of the world, they're dying every hour and nobody cares. Anyway, that's just kind of sad about how arrogant we are. So we also wanted to know about other natural disasters. Toronto is actually part of an earthquake fault line. People don't take this seriously at all in Toronto because nobody actually thinks that we'll have a 7 or an 8, and most of the buildings are shoddily built downtown and the building boom will actually come tumbling down. But historically it would suggest that indeed we can. But as you can see from this, if we have an earthquake of 2.4 on the Richter scale, it is big news. It was big news. We have had a 5 in the Ottawa area, so we're due for this. Bonus question is what terrain is in your area. Where I am right now when I work, the terrain is mostly asphalt and concrete and steel and glass. Right? Anyway, you'll be able to see what the terrain is in the local area. Toronto's actually nicely marked on the map, so that helps. And you can see nothing at all because I wobbled the camera. So you can see that most of the northern part of the province is actually bedrock, and it's pink granite, white granite, and stuff like that. Lots of caves. The thing with Ontario is it's the size of England and France combined, so a lot of people don't think of that. And there's a lot more north from where we are. We're clinging to the bottom part of it, and that's where most of the people and the activity is. But Toronto is a massive province and a fun one to visit, and certainly a fun one to live in. So thanks Creative Redundancy for a great tag. I hope the world of YouTube has enjoyed my somewhat eclectic look at the climate and weather in Toronto.
So, as the world changes, so must oneself. To reach a new level of skill and knowledge, one must practice. A single person can't help everyone in this world, but one person can help someone in this world. So, let's all come together and combine to make a better future today. And it's peace out from the guy from Western Canada with the snow here. It's peace out from CR. Later, and thank you for doing this tag.
Shiny, shiny, shiny boots of leather. Whiplash, girl child in the dark. Comes in bells, your servant, don't forsake him. Strike, dear mistress,